How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Daled, Daf 34 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, I think I'm doing better than I was yesterday. Yesterday I felt shvach. Oh my gosh, yesterday I felt really shvach. It was a long daf too. Woo. Oh, today I think I'm doing better. Not 100% better, but better. I'll be all right. Hopefully I'll survive. All right. We're going to start on Daf Lamed Daled about 5-6 lines into the page by the two dots. Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Short Babylon. All right, short Shav Mosayim Shenogach Shav Mosayim. All right. What did we talk about yesterday? We were talking about different shores, different oxen that like gore each other. All right, sounds like exciting stuff. So again, Shav Mosayim Shenogach Shav Mosayim. So a shore that's 200 zuz gores a shore that's 200 zuz, v'chavel bo b'chmishim zuz, and causes 50 zuz worth of damage. 50 zuz worth of damage. Okay, fine. 50 zuz worth of damage. All right. We're talking about a short time. So v'shavach v'omer al arba me'o zuz. But then what happens is the shore nizak actually ended up becoming actually worth more. The shore anizak was 200 zuz. It got damaged 50 zuz. Now it's worth 150 zuz. But then it made a recovery. Not just a recovery. It actually went so stark it became 400 zuz. Now the thing is, if not for the fact that it got damaged, it could have even become 800 zuz. Nosing shasa nezek. So the mazik pays the nizak like at the time of the damage. So what just happened? Doesn't read super smoothly, but basically what happens is this. The shora mazik is 200 zuz, fine. The shora nizak is 200 zuz. The shora mazik damages the shora nizak 50 zuz. So now it's 150 zuz. So of course the mazik needs to pay the nizak 25 zuz, right? Because it's a short time, so it's chatzi nezek. So the damages was 50 zuz, so the mazik needs to pay the nizak 25 zuz. Okay, but here's the thing: the mazik says, "Wait a second, your shore didn't actually end up becoming less valuable at all. Meaning, Mr. Nizak, you want me to pay you 25 zuz because my shore damaged your shore." And it was 200 zuz, now it's 150 zuz, but that's not true. Now it's actually 400 zuz. So, it ended up actually becoming even more valuable than it was at the time. So the mazik is trying to make an argument to the nizak that I really shouldn't have to pay you because your ox didn't actually get damaged. It actually got stronger. But the thing is that the nizak replies to the mazik, it did get stronger, but it would have gotten even stronger if your ox didn't gore my ox, right? So therefore, if not for the injury, it could have been 800 zuz. So therefore, the mazik still needs to pay the nizak for the damages incurred, which will be 50 zuz of damages. Half of that for the chatzi nezek is 25 zuz, right? So again, let's read it again from the beginning. Taner Rabbanan, shor shavim masayim shenogach shor shavim masayim. A shore that's 200 zuz gores a shore that's 200 zuz. V'chavel bo b'chmishim zuz causes 50 zuz of damage. But then Vishavach, then the Shora Nizak ended up becoming healthier. And actually its value is now not 200 zuz but 400 zuz. So we say that nonetheless the mazik needs to pay the chatzi nezek to the Nizak, and the mazik cannot make the argument that you didn't lose anything. Your ox is actually more valuable now because because the Nizak can make the argument that but if not for the damage that my ox sustained, it would have been even more. It would have been 800 zuz. So nosing shasa nezek, the mazik pays the nizak, like at the time of the damage, i.e., it was 200. Right, the shora nizak was 200 zuz at the time. It then was damaged to be 150 zuz. Right, 50 zuz worth of damage. The mazik therefore pays chatzi nezek on that 25 zuz. Kochash, if the state of the shora nizak continued to deteriorate, so it didn't get stronger, it got weaker, and let's say it went down to 100 zuz, right? So the Shor HaMazik damaged the Shor HaNizak. The Shor HaNizak was 200 zuz. The Shor HaMazik damaged the Shor HaNizak. It was now 150 zuz. Right, it was 200, now it's 150. But then its condition continued to deteriorate, and now they go to Bezdin. By the time they go to Bezdin, it's already, the value is 100 zuz now. So, no sin lo kishas anezek. So the kishas, wait, what? Did I just skip? What did I just read? Kochas kishas amad badin. Right, so if the value of the Shor HaNizak continues to deteriorate, and let's say it's now 100 zuz, so the mazik needs to pay chatzi nezek based on the value of the Shor HaNizak at the time that they go to Bezdin, which is 100 zuz. So he's going to pay. So meaning it was 200 zuz, now it's 100 zuz. So the so the damage is 100 zuz. Chatzi nezek is 50 zuz. So the mazik is going to have to pay the nizak 50 zuz. Shavach mazik, if the Shor HaMazik increased in value, okay. So the interesting thing is this. So here's the interesting thing here. You ready for the interesting thing? The interesting thing is, so the Shor HaMazik was 200 zuz. It caused 50 zuz of damage to the Shor HaNizak, which was initially 200 zuz as well. So now it's 50 zuz. It's 150 zuz. It caused 50 zuz of damage. So what does the mazik need to pay the nizak? Well, it's chatzi nezek. So the damages were 50 zuz. Half of that is 25 zuz. Now, of course, shor tam is mishalim migufa. That the payment for the shor tam comes from the guf of the animal, from the body of the animal. So interestingly, so the Shor HaMazik was 200 zuz. The Shor HaNizak was 200 zuz. The Shor HaMazik caused 50 zuz of damage on the Shor HaNizak. So the 50 zuz, so chatzi nezek is 25 zuz. So the 25 zuz that the mazik needs to pay the nizak is 1/8 of the value of the Shor HaMazik. The Shor HaMazik is 200 zuz. The mazik needs to pay the nizak 25 zuz. 25 zuz is 1/8 of 200 zuz. So the interesting thing is, what if the Shor HaMazik now increases in value, and now the Shor HaMazik is 400 zuz? So do we say that, well, that won't affect the amount of money that the mazik needs to pay the nizak? It makes no difference. It's still 25 zuz. Or do we say that no, it's 1/8 of the value of the Shor HaMazik, which means that if the Shor HaMazik now becomes 400 zuz, so then the chatzi nezek is no longer 25 zuz. It's now 50 zuz, because it increased with the ox, with the value of the ox, right? So again, so shavach mazik, if the Shor HaMazik becomes more valuable, no sin lo kishas hanezek, but the mazik nonetheless pays the nizak like at the time of the damage, i.e. 25 zuz, not 50 zuz, right? It doesn't increase with the value of the ox. Kochash, if the Shor HaMazik got weaker, so it was 200 zuz, but now, right, and at the time of the nezek, the Shor HaMazik was 200 zuz, the damage was 50 zuz, chatzi nezek on that is 25 zuz, but then the Shor HaMazik decreased in value to now be 100 zuz. So in that case, we actually say that the chatzi nezek decreases with the value of the Shor HaMazik, and if the Shor HaMazik now is 100 zuz, so then the chatzi nezek is no longer 25 zuz, it's 12.5 zuz, right? So where am I? Kochash, if the Shor HaMazik went lower in value, so then kishas hamod bedin, so we evaluate the chatzi nezek based at the time that they went to Bezdin, which means that it'll be 1/8 of 200, which then when the 200 becomes 100, that also decreases, gets cut in half. 1/8 of 100 is 12.5, I think. Okay. And we're gonna have to figure out why, when it increases in value, it's kishas hanezek, and when it decreases in value, it's kishas hamod b'din. We'll have to figure out why. Omer Mai. Okay, we said earlier, shavach mazik. Okay, if the Shor HaMazik increases in value, nosin kishas hanezek, we pay kishas hanezek. I.e., we say that the 1/8 does not increase with the value of the ox. Rather, no, the 25 shekel, the 25 zuz payment remains the same. Money Rabbi Shmueli. Well, that's like Rabbi Shmuel, right? We saw the machlokes in Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, right? Did we? Did we see this? Did we see this yet? Did we see this yet? I can't remember now. Did we do it yesterday? Maybe not. Oh yeah, Rabbi Akiva. Yeah, Rabbi Shmuel. Yeah, Balchov. Yeah, Shutfin. I think that must have been yesterday. Yesterday I was in a different planet. Okay, so Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva says that the mazik and the nizak end up becoming partners in the shor mazik, right? So the shor mazik damaged the shor nizak. So the mazik and the nizak, but the basically what happens is the nizak be'etzem takes a percentage stake in the shor. The nizak takes sort of a stake in the shor mazik for a percentage of the cow. So if we're saying that the shor mazik was 200 zuz, okay. If we're saying the shor mazik was 200 zuz, okay, and it caused 50 zuz of damage to the shor nizak, and we're saying that chatzi nezek is 25 zuz, so be'etzem the nizak gets a 25 zuz stake. The nizak has a 25 zuz stake in the shor mazik, which means that the nizak owns 1/8 of the shor mazik, which means that if the shor mazik increases in value, so then the nizak's stake in the shor mazik increases with it. But if we say like Rabbi Yishmael, however, that the mazik and the nizak don't become partners, rather the nizak is be'etzem a creditor, right? The shor mazik is 200 zuz, it caused 50 zuz of damage to the shor nizak. Chatzi nezek is 25 zuz. Simply, the mazik owes the nizak 25 zuz, and whatever happens to shor mazik, increases, decreases, makes no difference. The fact of the matter is, the mazik needs to pay the nizak 25 zuz. That is Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. Right? Rabbi Akiva's opinion is that they're partners. Rabbi Shmuel's opinion is that no, he pays money. So from the fact that we're saying that if the shor mazik increases in value, the 25 zuz payment remains the same, that means it's like Rabbi Yishmael, who says that he's just a creditor, right? The mazik owes money to the nizak. Right, so where am I? Omar, we had said earlier, I'm reading this again. Shavach mazik, if the shor mazik increases in value, nosin kishasa nezek, the mazik pays the nizak like at the time of the damage, i.e. it stays 25 zuz. Money Rabbi Shmueli. That is like Rabbi Shmuel, the Omar, who says, Balchov hu, v'zuzehu d'masik le. That the nizak is just a creditor, and the mazik just needs to pay him 25 zuz, and that's not gonna change. But ema seifa, but what does the next part of the brisa say? Kochash, that if the shor mazik decreases in value, kishas hamada badin, well then the 25 zuz, right, the 1/8% stake, it decreases with the shor mazik. Asan Rabbi Akiva. Well, then that sounds like Rabbi Akiva, Damar Shutfei Ninu, who says that the mazik and the nizak are partners, and that the nizak takes a 1/8 stake in the shor mazik, and therefore it's kishas hamada badin. It's that, right? It's the value of the ox of the mazik at the time to go to Bezdin, and the 1/8 stake of the nizak has decreased. So that is like Rabbi Akiva. So Reisha Rabbi Shmuel, V'sefer Rabbi Akiva. What's going on? So the first part where he says that it's kishas hanezek when it increases in value, that's like Rabbi Shmuel, and when we say that it decreases in value, it's like Rabbi Akiva. So lo kula Rabbi Akiva he. No, it's all Rabbi Akiva, and that it's all Rabbi Akiva, and that they're partners. So if they're considered partners, well then when the shor mazik increases in value, I would think that the stake of the nizak increases in value as well. So however, here we're talking about where the mazik spent his own money, invested his own money to fatten up the ox so that it is more valuable, right? So meaning the shor mazik didn't just become more valuable on its own, right? It didn't just happen to go from being 200 zuz to being 400 zuz. The mazik invested in fattening it up. So therefore, since the mazik invested in that and spent money on that, the nizak isn't entitled to that increase. Iksha pitmo, but if we're talking about where we're fattening up the ox, so ema reisha, then I'll tell you, I'll ask a kasha from the reisha of the brisa. Shavach, that if the shor nizak increased, ve amad al dalad meo zuz, and now the shor nizak is 400 zuz. Okay, and we had the havmina that maybe the mazik can say to the nizak, why should I have to pay you anything? Your ox didn't decrease in value, it increased in value. But if we're talking about, right, so we're saying, nosin lo kashasa nezek, that still the mazik needs to pay the nizak, but ikisha pitmo, if we're talking about the increased in value of the ox is because the owner invested money to fatten it up. So in this case, the nizak invested money to fatten up the shora nizak. Tzricha lemeimar? It goes without saying. Obviously, the argument of the mazik is irrelevant, right? The mazik says, look, the value of the shora didn't decrease, it increased. To which the nizak obviously would say, genius, it increased because I invested money so that its value would increase. It didn't just increase on its own, and therefore, of course you're going to have to pay for the damage, right? Don't say I didn't cause any damage. You did cause damage. The only reason why it increased is because I spent money to increase the value. So Amar Papa says, Papa Reisha Mishkachas Lo, that look, in the Reisha, we say that that the mazik is going to have to pay the nizak bein de patma patume, whether the nizak invested money to increase the value of the shor hanizak, and obviously then the mazik would have to pay the nizak. Bein de shvacha memela, and whether or even if the shor nizak increased in value on its own, because the nizak will say to the mazik, yeah, enoch hinami, it was 200 zuz, now it's 400 zuz, but if your shor mazik would not have damaged my shor nizak, then it would have been 800 zuz. So therefore, the mazik still needs to pay the nizak. And the Bryce had to teach us that where the value of the shor nizak increased on its own, nosin lo kshasa nezek, that the mazik still has to pay the nizak, like at the time of the nezek, because the nizak will say, look, if your ox didn't injure my ox, it would have been even that much more valuable than it is now. Seifa, when it comes to the seifa, that we say that if the value of the shor mazik increases, the ownership stake of the nizak in the shor mazik does not increase, lo mishkachas lo elok shepitmo, that would be davka when the mazik invested in fattening up the shor mazik, that because he spent money fattening it up, the nizak is not entitled to that increase. Kochash, we had said earlier that in the event that right, so the shor hamazik was 200 zuz, the shor nizak was 200 zuz, the shor mazik damages the shor nizak by 50 zuz. If the condition of the shor nizak continued to deteriorate, and now it's, let's say, 100 zuz, so we say it's kishas amada bedin. It's so we evaluate the shor nizak based on the time that it goes to bezdin, i.e. at 100 zuz, and therefore the mazik will have to pay chatzi nezek of 50 zuz, not 25 zuz. So kochas kishas amada bedin. So we said that if the shor nizak decreases in value, so then we evaluate the chatzi nezek based on the time, based on the lower value of when the shor nizak arrived at bezdin. Kochash machmas mai. How did the right? So we said that the shor nizak continued to the value, the condition of the shor nizak continued to deteriorate. Now its value is 100 zuz. How did it arrive? How did it end up being only 100 zuz? So at least in my example, it became 100 zuz, just a number we could work with. So ilim de kochasha machmas milocha. Well, if it's because the nizak continued to work the shor hanizak, and therefore the condition continued to deteriorate. So the lemale, so the mazik will say to the nizak, I don't understand. Atma kashas vano yoivno. You're working your ox and decreasing it and making it weaker, and I now have to pick up the difference. Amravashi de kochash machmas make to amale kaina de torach kvira bay. So says Ravashi, no, it's talking about where the condition of the Shor Nizak deteriorated because of the wound that it inflicted from the Shor Mazik. That at the time that the Shor Mazik gored and injured the Shor Nizak, the damage was 50 zuz, but the condition continued to deteriorate until it was even more significant damage. And in that case, we say that the Mazik is going to have to pay the Nizak for the Chatzi Nezek on the more significant damages. Wow, that first section took longer than I thought it would. I'm telling you, BavaKama it's just a slow moving Masechta, but again, it's very good, in my opinion. Says the Mishnah, Shor Shavet Mosaim Shenogach Shor Shavet Mosaim. Okay, so a Shor Mazik that's 200 zuz that gores to death a Shor Nizak that was, when it was alive, worth 200 zuz. Veina Neveli Ofiklum, and the carcass is valueless. So basically, the Mazik caused 200 zuz of damage to the Nizak. Okay, so Reb Meir says, Reb Meir al zeh ne'emar, about this the pasuk says, Umachru es Ashor Achai, that they sell the Shor Mazik, which is 200 zuz, Vichatzu es Kaspo, and they split the damages, right? Because we're talking about a Shor Tam, and the Nizak receives 100 zuz, right? So you have a Shor Tam that was 200 zuz, you have a Shor Nizak that was 200 zuz. The Shor Nizak went to Oxwood, it died, and which means that the Nizak incurred, I don't know, lost the entire value of the cow. The carcass is worth nothing, so he lost 200 zuz. Chatzi Nezek is 100 zuz, so they sell the Shor Mazik. V'chatzu is kaspo. They sell the Shor Mazik for 200 zuz. They split the value in half. 100 zuz. They give, right, the Mazik keeps 100 zuz. He gives 100 zuz to the Nizak, and right. So the Shor Nizak receives Chatzi Nezek. His Shor was 200 zuz. It's dead. It's not worth anything right now, and he receives 100 zuz, which is half damages. Omelei Reb Yehuda. Reb Yehuda says to Reb Meir, V'chein halacha. Yes, this is the halacha. This is the halacha. Shor 200, right? It's 200 zuz. Shor gores at 200 zuz. Shor, the carcass is nothing. They sell it, give half. Great. However, points out Reb Yehuda, Kiyamta umachru es Ashor Achai v'chatzu es kaspo. Sure, you explained that they sell the Shor Mazik, they split the value. But v'lo kiyamta v'gamas hameis yechetzun. But what about the pasuk v'gamas hameis yechetzun, that they also split the dead cow, the Shor Nizak, the mace? But maybe you didn't address that. Ve'eze ze Shor Shavim Mosaim. So this is talking about a ox that is 200 zuz. Shenogach Shor Shavim Mosaim, that gored an ox that's worth 200 zuz, gored it to death. V'anevela yofech 50 zuz, and the nevela is 50 zuz. Oh, you hear the case? So the Shor Mazik is 200 zuz, the Shor Nizak is 200 zuz, the Shor Mazik kills the Shor Nizak, but in this case, the Shor Nizak, the carcass is not valueless, the carcass is 50 zuz. Okay, so now, Reb Meir says that what you do in this case is that you sell the Shor Mazik, which is 200 zuz, and then you split it, right? 100 zuz goes to the Mazik, 100 zuz goes to the Nizak, and then they take the carcass, then they take the carcass of the Shor Nizak, which is 50 zuz. They sell that as well for 50 zuz. They split that. And again, the Mazik takes 25 zuz and the Nizak takes 25 zuz. So again, they sold the Shor HaMazik for 200 zuz. They split that in half. Each one gets 100. And then they sell the carcass for 50 zuz. They split that in half and each one gets 25. So be'etzem, the Shor HaMazik gored the Shor Nizak to death. The carcass is 50 zuz. When the Shor Nizak was alive, it was 200 zuz. The damage that was caused to this Shor HaNizak, that was initially 200 zuz, but now it's only 50 zuz, it's 150 zuz. The Nizak receives Chatzi Nezek, half of that payment, which is 75 zuz, and he incurs 75 zuz of loss. He had an asset, he had an ox that was 200 zuz, and now, it was damaged, it was decreased in value by 150 zuz. Half of that is 75. He needs to swallow 75 zuz of loss. And the way that Rabbi Yehuda arrives at this is that, well, you take the Shor HaMazik, which is 200 zuz, you sell that, and then the Mazik and the Nizak each get 100 zuz. You take the carcass, which is 50 zuz, you sell that, and each one gets 25 zuz. So at the end of the day, the Nizak gets 125 zuz, which is 75 less than what he initially had, which is an ox that was 200 zuz, so he loses 75 zuz. Alright, what do you want me to tell you? And that is what Rabbi Yehuda does with the pasuk of V'gamas ha-meis yechatzun, that also they split the mace, they split the carcass, right? They split the Shor HaMazik, and they also split the carcass of the Shor HaNizak. Tanya Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Shor Shavim Osayim, Shenogach Shor Shavim Osayim. So says the Gemara, an ox that's 200 zuz, that gores to death an ox that's 200 zuz, Vanaveli Yafeh Chamishim zuz, and the carcass is 50 zuz. Zenotel Chatzi Achai v'Chatzi Ameis, Zenotel Chatzi Achai v'Chatzi Ameis. So the mazik, right? So they sell the Shor HaMazik, they sell the carcass. The mazik takes half of the Shor HaMazik and half of the carcass of the Shor HaNizak, and the Nizak also gets half of the value of the Shor HaMazik and half of the value of the carcass of the Shor HaNizak. V'zehu Shor Amar B'Torah, and this is the Shor that's written in the Torah, right? When it says, that Umachus HaShor Achai v'Chatzu Es Kaspo v'Gamas HaMeis Yechatzun. So that's what we're talking about. That's Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Meir, my sister Rabbi Meir, Ein zeh Shor ha'amar b'Torah. This is not the ox that is written in the Torah. Ella, rather, says Reb Meir, Shor Shavim Osayim Shnogach l'Shor Shavim Osayim. Rather, a Shor HaMazik that's 200 zuz, that gores a Shor HaNizak that's 200 zuz. Ve'ein ha'nevela yafeh klum, and the nevela is worth garnished. It's worth nothing. Al zeh ne'emar. About this it says, Umachus HaShor Achai, that they sell the Shor HaMazik, which is 200 zuz, v'Chatzu Es Kaspo, and they split it in half, which is 100 zuz, and they, wait, what? What? No, what? No, so what they do is, what? No, according to Reb Meir, what they do is, I don't know, I spaced out. Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? I totally spaced out. Yeah, what? Okay, I spaced out. Let's read Reb Meir again. Reb Meir Omer Ein Zeh Shor Amar B'Torah. It's not the Shor that's written in Torah. Ela Shor Shavim Osayim. Shnogach Shor Shavim Osayim. A Shor HaMazik that's 200 zuz kills a Shor HaNizak that's 200 zuz. Ve'ein ha'neveli yafeh klum, and the carcass is worth garnished. It's worth nothing, which means that the Nizak incurred 200 zuz of loss, but because the damager, the Shor HaMazik, was a Shor Tam, so the Nizak only receives Chatzi Nezek. So Zeh Nemar, about this the pasuk says, Umachus HaShor Achai, take the Shor HaMazik, sell it, v'Chatzu Es Kaspo, divide its 200 zuz in half of it goes to the Nizak, and Zeh, the Nizak gets 100 zuz, which is half of the value of his ox that was killed. Fine. So then, according to Reb Meir, so what do you do with V'gamas ha-meis yechatzun? That they also split the carcass, they also split the mace. In this case, the mace wasn't worth anything, they're only splitting the Shor HaMazik. So pachas shepachatzo misa machatzin b'chai. The V'gamas ha-meis yechatzun, what it means is that the decrease in value that was caused by the killing of the Shor HaNizak, i.e. it was initially 200 zuz, now it's worthless. So machatzim b'chai, so that depreciation, in this case 200 zuz, they split based on the Shor HaMazik. That they sell the Shor HaMazik, in this case 200 zuz, they split that and that is what is then paid to the nizak. Okay, fine. Michdei. Let's see. Bein Reb Meir, Bein Reb Yehuda, Haimei ve'esim v'chamisha shakil, v'haimei ve'esim v'chamisha shakil, my beinayu. Oh. So the Gemara asks, look, the Gemara says, I have a question. At the end of the day, Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda are saying the same thing, let's be honest. Reb Meir says that if you have a shor shavim masayim, shenogach shor shavim masayim, and the carcass is 50 zuz, Reb Meir says that, well, the shor nizak was initially 200 zuz, now the carcass is only 50 zuz, the nizak incurred 150 zuz of damage, divide 150 in half, that's 75 zuz, okay, so the nizak needs to swallow 75 zuz, but the mazik needs to pay the nizak 75 zuz, take the shor mazik, sell it, it's 200 zuz, sell it, get the 200 zuz, take 75 of cash and give it to the nizak, and okay, so the nizak has the carcass of his ox, which is 50 zuz, he just received 75 zuz from the mazik, he has 125 zuz, he swallowed 75 zuz of loss. According to Reb Yehuda, the way that you arrive at that same number is that you take the shor mazik, which is 200 zuz, you sell that for 200 zuz, you split it among the mazik and the nizak, each gets 100 zuz, you then take the carcass, you sell that and split that oichit among the mazik and the nizak, so each one gets 25 zuz. So at the end of the day, the nizak also in this scenario has 125 zuz, half of the carcass plus half of the shor mazik, 125 zuz, and he swallows 75 zuz. At the end of the day, Reb Yehuda and Reb Meir are saying the Zalbazach. They're saying the same thing. That the nizak walks away with 125 zuz and he has to swallow 75 zuz. So, my benayu, what's the difference? Amar Rave says Rave, Pachas nevela ike benayu. The difference is, what if the value of the carcass decreases? Who's responsible for that? According to Reb Meir, who says that the Pachas, that the carcass belongs to the nizak, that they don't split it, it belongs to the nizak. Well, then if it goes down, if the carcass decreases in value, the nizak needs to swallow that. According to Rabbi Yehuda, who says that they split it, well, then if it decreases in value, so then if it becomes now 40 zuz, so they're going to sell that and split 40 zuz, and each one's going to get 20 instead of 25, and that would affect the mazik as well. Okay. So Reb Meir saw Pachas nevela dinizakave. Reb Meir says that the decrease in value of the nevela is entirely absorbed by the nizak. Reb Yehuda Savar was Reb Yehuda holds Pachas nevela demazik have palga, whereas Reb Yehuda says that no, they have to split the Pachas nevela, right? They split the decrease equally, and half of the decrease is going to be swallowed by the mazik as well. Amali Abayim Kein Matzinu Reb Yehuda. Tam Mimur. So Abaye asks a kasha on Rave, and he says, if that's the case, that you're saying that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Pachas Nevela, the decrease in the value of the carcass, is split between the Mazik and the Nizak equally, well, in that case, Tam is actually more stringent than Muad. Because we learned that by a Muad, the Mazik pays the difference between the carcass and the value when it was alive, and he pays the entire difference. But here we're saying by a short tam, right, and by the mazik, and by the muad, going back to the muad for a second, by the muad, any pachas nevela, any decrease in the carcass would be entirely on the nizak to absorb, and the mazik pays the entire difference between the carcass at the time of the goring and the value when it was alive, and the mazik pays the entire difference. But the pachas nevela is solely on the nizak. But in this case, according to Rav, in this case, Rabbi Yehuda is saying that by a short tam, where they sell the shor mazik and split that in half, and then they sell the carcass and split that in half, and Rabbi Yehuda is saying that the pachas nevela of the carcass, they have to split equally between the mazik and the nizak. So here the mazik is actually also taking part of the loss of the pachas nevela, which means that by a short tam, it's actually more stringent for the mazik, in that he has to also be responsible for pachas nevela, which is not the case by a shor muad. And if you're going to say achinami, And if you're going to say, yeah, eino chinami, the shor tam is more stringent than the shor muad, kidetnan. After all, as we learn in the Mishnah, that we're going to learn in about 10 days from now, Rabbi Yehuda Omer tam chayiv muad potter. In the case of shomrim, we'll get there. But be'etzim, the point is that Rabbi Yehuda says that there's this case where a tam is actually more stringent than a muad. Right? A tam is chayiv and a muad is potter. So yeah, we could say that actually tam is actually more stringent than muad. But Eimer the Shamas Lei Rabbi Yehuda Leinin Shmira. But I'll suggest that Rabbi Yehuda says that a tam is more stringent than a muad when it comes to guarding, which is that sugya over there, the chsivei kroik, there's psukim, we'll get there. But Leinin Tashlum Mishamas Lei. But who says that Rabbi Yehuda would say? I hope I'm not confusing Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. But who would say that Rabbi Yehuda would say that a short tam is more stringent than a short muad when it comes to payment? V'atanya, after all, we learn in a brisa. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, Yachol shor shave moneh, shenogach shor shave chomesh sloim, v'anevele yafe sela, zenota chatzi achai v'chatzi ameis, v'zenota chatzi achai v'chatzi ameis. Omer v'chimuad lama yotza, lahachmir olav lahakal olav, havi omer lahachmir olav, u'ma'amud einu mishalim el ma'shehizik, tamakal lo kol sheken. Chavi, you got that? Do you need me to explain that? Or the scenario here is talking about a situation where a shor mazik is worth 100 zuz, and the shor anizak is worth 5 selas. Now, 1 sela is 4 zuz, so 5 selas is 20 zuz, and the carcass is, we said 1 sela, which is 4 zuz. Okay, so the shor mazik, which is a shor tam, the shor mazik is worth 100 zuz. Gores to death the shor anizak, which is 20 zuz. The carcass is 4 zuz. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to the formula that we saw according to Rabbi Yehuda, so you would take the shor mazik, which is 100 zuz, sell it, and split that between the mazik and the nizak. So each would get 50. And then the shor, and then you take the carcass of the shor nizak, which is 4 zuz, and again you would sell that and split it, and each one would get 2 zuz. So in that case, the mazik, I don't even remember what we're saying anymore. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think this is what we're saying. Can't even remember. But the mazik is basically if this were the case, then a tam is being more stringent than a muad, right? Because by a shor muad, I think I'm going to have to read it inside again because I forgot what it's talking about already. But in this case, the nizak was, the shor nizak was only worth 20 zuz, which means that by a shor muad, the mazik would only have to pay 20 zuz. Yet in this case, we're saying that he basically has to sell his ox, which is 100 zuz, and he's basically, paying. The nizak, instead of getting 20 zuz, is getting 52 zuz, right? Because you take the shor mazik and split it in half, that's 50. Take the carcass, split it in half, that's 2. The shor nizak is getting 52 zuz, not just 20 zuz. So we're seeing that the mazik then would be more stringent than the nizak, and that can't be. So let's read that again, right? So again, Rava had said that by pachas nevela, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it would be split among the mazik and the nizak. Abayi says, but if that's the case, then that means that by a shor tam we're being more stringent than by a shor muad. And then we suggested, okay, maybe by a shor tam we are more stringent than by a shor muad, but that can't be because of the following case. The Rabbi Yehuda says that no, a shor tam is more lenient than a shor muad. Ve'atani, we learn in a brisa, 5 lines into the page. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda, Yachol shor shavimon, is it possible that in a case where a shor mazik that's 100 zuz, shenogach shor shaveh chomesh sloim, which gored to death a shor nizak which was 20 zuz, v'aneveli ofesela, and the carcass is worth 4 zuz. Zenotol chatzi achai v'chatzi ameis, zenotol chatzi achai v'chatzi ameis. And would we suggest that in this case, the mazik takes half of the shor mazik and half of the carcass, i.e., he gets 52 zuz, and the nizak also gets the same thing, which is 52 zuz? Omad v'chimuad lama yotza lahachmir olav lahakol olav. How can we sort of distinguish between a shor atam and a shor muad to be more stringent by the shor tam, by the shor muad, or to be more stringent by the shor muad, or more lenient? Haviyom lahachmir olav, to be more stringent by a shor muad. Well, if the muad would only pay that which he damaged, i.e., the shor anizak was 20 zuz. It's now carcass is 4 zuz, so we'd have to pay the difference, which is 16 zuz. So by a muad, the mazik would only have to pay be'etzim 16 zuz, and yet over here, based on Rabbi Yehuda's formula, he'd be paying much more be'etzim. He'd be paying, 48 zuz, I guess, right? Because he has to sell his and sell the other one. So Masha Izik. So tam hakal lo koshikin. So certainly by a shor tam, which is more lenient, it can't be that he's going to have to pay more money than by the shor hamud. So we see, Hidafka says, tam hakal lo koshikin. Rabbi Yehuda himself is saying that tam is more lenient. So it cannot be that Rabbi Yehuda would say that a tam is more stringent. Ella, Rabbi Yochanan, rather says Rabbi Yochanan, shvach nevela ika benayu. The difference is, if the nevela increases in value, can, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he would say that, so if the carcass increases in value, Rabbi Yehuda would say that both the mazik and the nizak would be able to split the increased value. The ma'asavar, the nizak, have, according to Rabbi Meir, it would entirely belong to the nizak. Ma'asavar palge, and Rabbi Yehuda says that the mazik and the nizak would split the increased value. Wow, this daf is longer than I thought. BavaKama is a surprising mesechta. These dafs are just very long. I didn't think that this was going to be such a long one. I thought it was going to be a shorter one today. But we still have a little bit more to do. We're already at the 40-minute mark. Wow. And this is that which Rabbi Yehuda asks, right? From the fact that he's saying that the mazik and the nizak can split the increased value of the carcass. So this is what Rabbi Yehuda asks. Now that we're saying that the Torah has Rachmanis on the mazik, that if the carcass somehow increases in value, the mazik would be able to sort of subtract that from the difference that he needs to pay. So Yachol Shor Shaveh Chomish Sloim Shenochach Shor Shaveh Mana. Is it possible then that if a shor that is worth 20 zuz gores to death a shor anizak that is worth 100 zuz, v'nevela yafeh 50 zuz, and the nevela is 50 zuz? Okay, so again, so you have a shor that is 200 zuz. What? No. A shor that is 20 zuz gores to death a shor that is 100 zuz. The nevela is worth 50 zuz. So now in this case, if you sell the shor amazik, which is 20 zuz, and you sell that, and and you split that in half, so each one gets 10. And then we have the nevela, which is 50 zuz, you split that in half, so each one gets 25. So the mazik initially had an asset, he initially had an ox that was 20 zuz, but now after all these sales, he actually has 35 zuz, right? Initially he had an ox that was 20 zuz, but he sold that and he gets half, and the nizak gets half, that he has 10 zuz. Then they sell the carcass of the nizak, which is 50 zuz, they split that in half. He now has 25 plus 10, which is 35. So whereas initially he had an ox that was 20 zuz, now he's, after his ox killed another ox, he now not just has 20 zuz, he has 35 zuz. How could that be? So again, whatever, maybe let's just keep on going right to the Gemara. So zenota chatzia chai v'chatzia ames. So the mazik takes half of the shor mazik and half of the carcass, i.e. 10 plus 25 is 35. And the nizak oichit takes half of the shor mazik and half of the carcass, i.e. 25 and 10 is 35. How could it possibly be that the mazik is gaining over here? Initially he had 20 zuz, now he has 35 zuz. The Omer, and also what the pasuk says, Shalim Yishalim, Bailim Mishalmin, Vein Bailim Notlin, that the mazik needs to pay, not take anything. My Omer, how come we need this additional pasuk of Shalim Yishalim? V'chitem, if you're going to say Hani Mile Heicha Deika Pseida Lenizak, maybe I'll say that look, the mazik cannot gain from his ox goring when it also leads to a loss to the nizak, right? When it leads to a loss to the nizak, right? So, for example, in our case just now, right, the nizak's ox was 100 zuz, the karka is 50 zuz, the damage that he incurred is 50 zuz, right? So chatzi nezek would be 25 zuz, but by selling the using that formula of selling the shor mazik, selling the shor nizak, so then the shor mazik initially we had 20 zuz, but now he has 35 zuz. The other the nizak initially had 100 zuz, and now he also has 35 zuz, which means that he's having to absorb 65 zuz as opposed to having to absorb 25 zuz, right? I hope I did the math right. Meaning, so maybe we'll say that the mazik cannot gain when it means that the nizak is losing, but if the nizak would not lose anything, for example, for example, what if you have the shor mazik was 20 zuz, gor is the shor nizak that was 20 zuz, and the nevela is actually not 20 zuz, but more than it was when it was alive, 30 zuz somehow. So I might think, shakal nami mazik bishvacha. So in that case, look, I mean, the mazik can also, right, they'll split the increased value of the carcass, which is now 30 zuz, and they'll split the increase of 10 zuz in half, and the mazik will gain 5 zuz, and the nizak doesn't lose anything. They both gain. So for Omer Shalim Mishalim, Bailim Mishalmin, Vim Bailim Notlim. So it says no, the damager or the mazik pays, he never only receives. Okay? Though we did say though that if you have a shor mazik and it kills the shor nizak, and then there's the carcass increase. So we did say earlier that according to Rabbi Yehuda, they would split the increase, but I think that's, if I understand correctly, that's so long as the mazik still needs to be paying something. He can't just gain. Meaning if the amount that he has to pay is more than the increase of the karka that he would be getting, the carcass that he would be getting. Omar le Rav Acha bar Tachlifa l'Rava, says Rav Acha bar Tachlifa to Rava, im kain, matzinu Rabbi Yehuda tam mishalim yotzer mechatzi nezek. So again, based on Rabbi Yehuda's formula of splitting the shor mazik, splitting the carcass, so you can have a situation where the shor mazik is where the mazik is paying more than chatzi nezek. And Rashi lays out an example. For example, if the shor mazik is 50 zuz, the shor nizak is 40 zuz, the carcass of the shor nizak is 20 zuz, which means that the damage that the nizak incurred is 40 minus 20, which is 20 zuz. Chatzi nezek is 10 zuz. So really, at the end of the day, the nizak should have 30 zuz, right? Again, he had an ox that was 40 zuz. The carcass is 20 zuz. The difference is 20 zuz. Half of that is 10 zuz. So you should have the carcass is 20 zuz plus the chatzi nezek. So you should have 30 zuz. But based on Rabbi Yehuda's formula, you would take the shor mazik, which is 50 zuz, sell it and split it in half, which would be 25 zuz. Take the carcass, which is 20 zuz, split that in half, sell that and split it in half, which is 10 zuz, which means that the mazik and the nizak would each get 35 zuz, which means that the nizak now has 35 zuz, whereas chatzi nezek would really be 30 zuz. So the mazik is paying more than the chatzi nezek. But the pasuk says that it's davka v'chatzu es kaspo. It's chatzi nezek, not more. So islay l'Rabbi Yehuda pachas shepachatzo misa machatzin b'chai. So actually, Rab Yehuda also agrees with Rab Meir that no, what you take is the damage, which is in this case 40 minus 20, which is 20, and chatzi nezek that, and yeah, what the mazik needs to pay the nizak is just 10. He's never going to pay more than chatzi nezek. Minole, how does Rabbi Yehuda know that? That also the mace they split basically the same way that Reb Meir learns it out. But didn't Rabbi Yehuda say though that from that pasuk we learn that each one gets half of the chai and half of the mace? So imken nichtov krav ve'es hames my vegam shma min hatarte. You could just say ve'es hames yechtzun. Why say vegam es hames yechtzun? To learn out both things, that you basically pay the chatzi nezek, and also that you split the shor tam, the shor chai and the shor hames. Basically, Rabbi Yehuda, if I understand correctly, Rabbi Yehuda agrees with Rabbi Meir be'etzim that it's always going to be chatzi nezek. The only difference would be in a situation where there's the increase of the carcass. So Rabbi Meir would say that both that Rabbi Yehuda would say that the mazik can also that in calculating the chatzi nezek you would take into account the increase of the carcass. But Rabbi Yehuda does ultimately agree with Rabbi Meir that chatzi nezek is always going to, is never going to be more than chatzi nezek. All right, wow, that was daf Lamed Daled of Masechta BavaKama. Also another kind of longish daf. So it's like we started on Lamed Daled and we ended on Lamed Daled, so it's like not a super long daf, and yet it was still took time. BavaKama is a slow moving Masechta. So I don't know. Yeah, we talked about just different scenarios of different cows goring each other, and what do we do in those scenarios? Peace out.